All right. This is a story that's been gaining a lot of attention. Hamdan Ballal, who was attacked by armed settlers in the West Bank, was detained. But I am proud to say, everyone, as it stands right now, this was updated at 9:02 a.m., March 25th. Israeli authorities released an Oscar-winning Palestinian director who was detained by the army. I want to share you guys the article, and I will be reading this update. But folks, hey, look, can we just get a round of applause and some thumbs up in the live stream chat right now? Because he's free. It's great. He should not have been detained in the first place. So good news. He's released. And this happened just right now. So what I do want to do is pull up what was released yesterday, because it's important to start from the beginning. But I want everyone who's watching this right now, spread the word. As it says right here, this is an article from the Associated Press. Israel releases Oscar-winning Palestinian director after he was attacked by West Bank settlers. So the good news is he's free. Kidnapped, I think the appropriate term. But let's go ahead, pull up this video from Case Study QB. He's wrongly being censored. So let's go ahead and at least play this video. I will play it in its full entirety and then read the updated article.
Developing news now out of the Middle East, where the Israeli co-director of the Academy Award-winning documentary No Other Land says one of his Palestinian co-directors has been, in his words, lynched. In a post in just the last hour, Yuval Abraham says his co-director, Hamdan Ballal, was beaten and was hurt in his head and his stomach. He also says soldiers got onto the ambulance he called, and there's been no sign of Ballal since. Our team is out to the Israeli Defense Forces for comment on those allegations. I want to show you Ballal here at the Oscars. There he is holding it. He's got the all-black suit on. We've talked a lot about this documentary on the show, No Other Land. It's this co-production between Israeli and Palestinian filmmakers looking at illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. But even with this huge Oscar win, it's struggling to get any distributor to pick it up in the United States. I want to get to Matt Bradley, who's following these late...
Sorry, I know I said I wouldn't pause, but how come nobody wants to distribute it? It's a thing called free speech. There might be people who might want to see it or watch it. I mean, it's important to see both sides. I mean, I'm a person that wants to hear both sides of the aisle, left and right, and yes, even the pragmatic centrists. But, I mean, that's the whole idea of a free society. But perhaps I'm a dreamer and I dream too much.
Breaking developments for us in Tel Aviv. Matt, what do we know?
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation that has really happened just the past couple of hours. And what we're seeing now is kind of a typical situation from what we've been seeing in the past from Mustafa Yatta, which is the scene of that documentary that won that Oscar. And as you mentioned, wasn't getting any pickup in the United States. And this was, a scene that could have been cut from the documentary itself. We saw, according to the people who were there and according to other filmmakers who were there, and according to Jewish American activists who witnessed the scene itself, it turns out that Hamdan Ballal, who was one of the co-directors, the Palestinian co-director, who is a resident of Mustafa Yatta, he was saying that he was attacked by settlers who were in the vicinity. They were masked. They were attacking not just him, but also the activists who were with him. These activists were from the Center for Jewish Nonviolence. Again, there were about half a dozen Jewish American activists who were recording this. They said, and Yuval Abraham, who is the co-director along with Hamdan Ballal, said that he had injuries to his head and his stomach. He was bleeding, and that he was put in an ambulance, and that Israeli soldiers, and we don't know if they were actually Israeli soldiers, there were people who were dressed as Israeli soldiers.
Now, again, I apologize. I said I wasn't going to pause. Sorry. I want to be clear on here. The videos in which the attacks are happening, if I were to share them right now, it would cause our channel to get a strike. It goes against a lot of terms and services. I don't think it's a smart move to make. But here's what I can at least describe. Mass individuals, again, we don't know if they were part of the IDF or not. Settlers, point is, Hamdan and his colleagues were attacked. Hamdan was detained, kidnapped, and put in his ambulance with injuries. The videos are extremely graphic. It is very frightening, and I can imagine the fear that everyone was feeling at the time. It was an unprovoked attack. Should not have happened. And again, I'm very curious to why no distributor wants to pick up this video and disperse it. I mean, it's an Academy Award-winning movie, documentary. Can the people not see it? I mean, it's not going to upset anything. It shouldn't upset the balance.
One of the
Let me rewind a little bit here.
They were masked. They were attacking not just him, but also the activists who were with him. These activists were from the Center for Jewish Nonviolence. Again, there were about half a dozen Jewish American activists who were recording this. They said, and Yuval Abraham, who is the co-director along with Hamdan Ballal, said that he had injuries to his head and his stomach. he was bleeding, and that he was put in an ambulance, and that Israeli soldiers, and we don't know if they were actually Israeli soldiers, there were people who were dressed as Israeli soldiers. And one of the things, Hallie, about that situation in that particular part of the West Bank, and actually in a lot of the West Bank, is that Israeli soldiers, or that settlers are deputized by Israeli soldiers, and they wear Israeli soldier uniforms, even though they are settlers. And I've been out there, they don't have markings, they don't have rankings on their epaulets, so you can't tell who they are, you can't tell what their ranks are, you can't tell what their names are or their numbers are. So in a way, they're able to do these deeds with impunity. They went into the ambulance where Hamdan Ballal was being held, where he was injured, and they came and they arrested him. And now these filmmakers and these activists don't really know exactly where he is. And so they're tweeting and they're trying to report what's going on. But this is, again, this is a scene that could be cut from the movie itself. So this is sort of, this documentary coming to life.
Also, again, the Palestinian co-director of the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land is being held. Again, updated. I will be reading the update article very soon. He's been released. Is being held by Israeli police. Okay. Maybe deputized settlers who have no rank. After he was beaten by a mob of settlers in the West Bank, according to eyewitnesses and a fellow filmmaker. The movie, which won the 2024 Best Documentary Feature Award, shows the deconstruction of a Palestinian community in the region occupied by Israel since 1967. Hey, Piers Morgan, do you condemn the actions that happened to Hamdan Ballal? Do you condemn that? Because that's pretty violent there, Piers. Do you condemn ad hominem? Yovel Abraham, an Israeli journalist and co-director of the film, said Hamdan Ballal had been beaten by a mob and later detained. A group of settlers just lynched Hamdan Ballal. He has injuries in his head and stomach, bleeding. Soldiers invaded the ambulance he called and took him. No sign of him since. And that must be extremely frightening for everybody involved. So let's go ahead and read the update. So, look, this is good news. But how about this? Maybe this should not have happened to the co-director. This should not have been allowed. This is extremely unsettling. As we all know, Gaza is being turned into a moonscape. And as, again, Bassem Youssef has called out and said not once but twice on Piers Morgan's show, what's happening to the people of West Bank. You have farmers losing their land, settlers moving in, displacing people. I mean, all in all, this is an absolute atrocious nightmare where there's no end in sight, no peace in our time. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So in the West Bank, Israeli authorities released an Oscar-winning Palestinian director who was detained by the army after being attacked by Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank, who his wife said beat him in front of his home while filming the assault. God almighty. Come on. Hamdan Ballal and the other directors of No Other Land, which looks at the struggles of living under Israeli occupation, had mounted the stage at the 97th Academy Awards in Los Angeles earlier this month when it won the award for Best Documentary Film. Great. Can we not have film distributors distribute it? Ballal and two other Palestinians detained him. Ballal and two other Palestinians detained with him were released Tuesday afternoon from a police station in the West Bank settlement of Kiryat Arba. Ballal had bruises on his face and blood on his clothes, and the three were driven to a hospital in the neighboring Palestinian city of Hebron, according to the Associated Press journalist at the scene. Their attorney, Leah Tesmel, said they spent the night on the floor of a military base while only receiving minimal care from the injuries of their attack. She had earlier said they were accused of throwing stones at a young settler, allegations they deny. Okay, I mean, did they do it? Is there proof? Evidence? Show me. Palestinian residents say around 24 settlers, some masked, some carrying guns, and some in military uniforms, attacked the West Bank village of Susia on Monday evening as residents were breaking their fast during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Soldiers who arrived pointed their guns at the Palestinians while settlers continued throwing stones, they said. The Israeli military said Monday it detained 3 Palestinians suspected of hurling rocks at forces and 1 Israeli civilian involved in what it described as a violent confrontation. On Tuesday, it referred further queries to police who did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Continuing on, Lamia Ballal, the director's wife, said she heard her husband being beaten outside their home as she huddled inside with their 3 children. She heard him screaming, "I'm dying," and calling for an ambulance. When she looked out the window, she saw 3 men in uniform beating Ballal with the butts of their rifles, and another person in civilian clothes who appeared to be filming the violence. There will be no peace. Of course, after the Oscar, they have come to attack us more, Alamil said. I felt afraid. West Bank settlers are often armed and sometimes wear military-style clothing that makes it difficult to distinguish them from soldiers. On Tuesday, a small bloodstain could be seen outside their home, and the car's windshield and windows were shattered. Neighbors pointed to a nearby water tank with a hole in the side that they said had been punched by the settlers. Okay, so what can we take from this? This is a horrific and unfair attack that has happened to this director. I mean, and the accusation, at least by the settlers, is saying that what they were throwing stones at people. I mean, you need to show proof and evidence. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of cameras and smartphones and CCTV video out there. I mean, show the proof, show the proof and evidence. Okay, but even then, the reaction of such an attack does not warrant a man being potentially hurt or dying in front of the house while his wife and 3 kids are hiding inside. Second of all, detained in such a manner, and then him and 2 other people detained with him, spending the whole night on a concrete floor. I mean, look, there's a thing called, humane treatment, especially of detained prisoners. I mean, I know it's a controversial statement there, but treat people humanely. Even those that are detained, you want to treat them nicely, right? This is a wrongful detention, and he should not have been detained in the first place. Now, thankfully, he's released. The only question I have to say is what comes next? Because it's very clear after the Oscars, he's got a target on his back, him and his colleagues, especially if they do a follow-up documentary film, because obviously they put a lot of time, effort, and energy in making this documentary, filming what's happening in the West Bank. It's clear to all of us ever since October 7th of 2023 that this war has been ongoing and continuous and that people are suffering, people are dying. There's no peace in sight. The Biden-Harris administration failed at that, and the Trump administration is failing at that. For the moment, some good news. He's free. But now we're on the nice edge of, well, what comes next? What comes next? Is he safe? Does he have to leave the West Bank? How big is the target on his back? What happens tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Is his family at risk? Are his friends and colleagues and their families at risk? But the answer is yes. Just another day. But I am curious, though, how come no film distributor wants to distribute that film? I mean, it's an Academy Award-winning film. It won at the Oscars. Can the people here in the USA not see it? I mean, what's so bad that no film distributor wants to distribute it? I mean, that's a whole idea of the arts and the films. That's for people to view and watch things. Why can't we watch it? I wonder. Why can't we not see it and people make their own educated decisions? Shocking statement of the year in 2025.